Blessings. I want to say thank you so much for joining me today as we move into Minds Matter. And hopefully you're tuning in to part 2 of the House on the Hill. Once again, welcome today on Minds That Matter. And of course, hopefully you're joining me for part 2 for House on the Hill. If you hadn't had a chance to listen to part 1, please go back and take a listen to that. That talks about our part 1 of leadership and my first job in the educational arena as the homeschool coordinator. As I preferenced in my part 1 of the House on the Hill, be mindful that there is some very sensitive information here that's going to be shared. In this sensitive information, I do not advise anyone to do the things that I did within these situations. This is my story. This is my words. This is what happened. Also be mindful that there is some very sensitive information, sensitive sharing. So I do put parental guidelines for notification that you may want to be mindful who listens to this. Again, this is real life events doing real life stories, real life situations. So as I move into part 2 on House on Hill, where we left off is my first introduction to the grandmother, to student number 1, and him getting to school. As I pick up my second visit from the house on the hill, I was successful in bringing a student to school. And when I walked into the building with him, I could tell that the people were shocked. I could tell they were shocked. We took him around to his classes. I walked him, showing where his classes are, and it was a very good day. After school, I took him home and I advised him to ride the school bus, but to no avail. This was not successful. The very next day, I went back to his house again, picked him up. The very next day, I went back to his house. This went on for day after day. And each day that the grandmother would come to the house, I could tell by my assertiveness that she was becoming more submissive. I'm not going to say weakened, but more submissive to my request. Anytime that she tried to rebuke or to reject what I was doing, I hit her hard. Ma'am, I tell you right now, I will go downtown. I'll do everything I can to ruin you. I'm going to take these kids from you. I'm going to make everybody aware of what you're doing, Blaza. And after a while, she stopped. There was some day he would ride the bus. Some days he wouldn't. Some days, I don't know who brought him to school, but he'd show up. But when I got to campus, when I did my attendance report, there were some days he was here and some days he was not. And I could almost tell you there was something inside of me that I was almost wishing, even though it may be inappropriate, that he wasn't there, but because I wanted to go and confront that. Little did I know then what the Lord was doing. Little did I understand then the leadership, what Nancy, that my school director was talking about, that the change that is going to come. And I think that my partner, T. McBride, said it best. For change to come from many of us, it is going to be hard, but it's going to be necessary. That's one of the things that he always says, and I think that you'll hear in some of his podcasts, the word that it's going to be hard, but it's going to be necessary. For change to come, for some, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be necessary. So as you're looking at your positions right now in education, as you look into yourself as a business leader right now, what are you doing to make your business better? What are you doing to make your business better? Am I complaining or am I confronting the issues with efforts to make it better? What are we doing? Are we complaining about it or are we putting in steps to make it better? And sometimes, unfortunately, since all of us are leaders, sometimes we're going to be led by people, and listen to this, there's some leaders who have been selected to put into leadership position. And then there are people that we're blessed to be around that God has placed into position. And for those people who have been placed into leadership, some of them, many of them may do a good job. But for those people who have God has put in position, there is going to be a change that takes place. There is going to be a life-changing change that's going to take place. And as individuals get better, as we bless people, it's one of those things that we also get better. Well, over time, I did not foresee that my relationship with student one, us traveling together, we begin to learn more about each other. And little to my knowledge, that he was going home and inadvertently sharing my life, our life now together with his grandmother and the children in his house. And his time with me was authentic, so there was nothing that she could say to rebuke who I was because he had lived it for himself. He was knowing who I was as I learned more about him. And the family that I first seen as a racist family, my opinions were changing. My opinions was changing. I was learning more about his grandmother, more about the other siblings in the house, more about him. Well, our relationship had grown to the point where she invited me into the home one day while he was getting dressed, and that's the first time that she had ever asked me to come in. And even though I did not want to, and I'm just speaking real to you, and please do not take this out of text, but the home was such, I was reluctant to enter into because of the cleanliness. As I went in, I saw more about their situation. And I'm going to use these words because this is my interpretation of it. The place was absolutely filthy. The level of filth had been so long that I saw the roaches on the wall that they didn't run away. They moved about with ease. Yes, during broad daylight, I saw rodents, rats, moving about the home. I saw mattresses that were on the floor, clothing stacked all over the place. To the rear of the house was a kitchen, and I could see dishes piled. And there was a smell in the house of which I'm not sure where that was, but I think because they had the dogs that had free runs coming in and out of the home, small dogs. It wasn't until some time later that I realized that the mattresses on the floor, that the small bites that I saw on student one, the little bites on the lower parts of his legs, on the back of his hands, his forearms, that they matched those of the siblings, those little kids in the house. It wasn't until I found out later from outside sources that those little small swollen bites that looked like mosquito bites, but they were not mosquito bites. They were where the rats were feeding on them, biting them, their skin at night while they slept. I've never seen anything like that. As we got back to school and I learned about that, I'm going to try to get through this. That's the first time I heard the term of community resources. I shared that information with our director and we went to work. We had access to people who would come out and do trash removal. I also, did sports. I knew some of those guys and I shared about this family and they knew who I was through the sports piece. And they said they would come out on a Saturday and help us get it cleaned up. I also knew a person who did bugs and rodents or whatever and shared my experiences there. And he said, Todd, we'll come out and we'll get that place cleaned up. And on that Saturday, we came out, and I'd give Grandma prior notices that she was coming. She was a proud woman, and I can remember her saying that, she doesn't take any pity, and I made it very clear that I don't have no pity for anyone. This is what the Lord has asked me to do, and she was a recipient, and she received that, and we went there and we cleaned up that porch, the trash. It was a truckload of stuff. We cleaned it all up, and of course the guy went around and he sprayed for roaches and set out the traps for rats, and of course the little kids were there. Student ones were there. He saw what we were doing, and the grandmother, I could tell that no one had ever reached out to help her like this. Now she never said thank you for that, but I could tell that she received that. Amen. That's all I can say about that. As time went by, I could see a change in the atmosphere of the home. When I would come by, there was no reluctance there. She simply say, Mr. Evans is here. Hurry up. Hurry up. And it wasn't that point anymore where she just looked at me. Now when I'd walk up the porch and knock on the door, the little kids in the house would say, good morning, Mr. Evans. And the grandmother would say from the distance, he's coming, just hold on 1 minute. It got to the point where one day she even said to me, Mr. Evans, we just overslept this morning. He's going to be a minute. Come in the house and have breakfast with us. And I can tell you, and please do not think bad of me, but I knew the conditions of the house. I did not think I was better, but I was reluctant to go in there and eat. Because of the conditions that they were. And I can remember on the porch that day when she asked me that I could say, and I almost smiled, and with a smile on my mouth, I said, what would Jesus do? And Jesus, I said, he would go in and he would break bread with them. And that's what I did. And I can say that that's one of the hardest things that I've ever did in my house was in my life was to go in there and have breakfast in a situation like that. But I sit there with those two little girls at the table, and grandmother's there, and she had biscuits and gravy I'll never forget. And I could still see the bugs crawling about. And she put it on, and and I began to eat. And she asked me, Mr. Evans, would you like a cup of coffee? And I said, well, I'm okay right now. She says that my son said, you always have a cup of coffee. My grandson says you have it every morning. So she made up me a glass. She went into the sink, pulled out a glass, ran water in it, and she poured coffee in it. And I was like, wow. I mean no disrespect, but it was a very hard thing to do. But I drank the coffee, and he got dressed, and we went on our way. Time went by, and I'm just about ready to wrap this up. Time went by, and of course, the young man progressed to our program. His attendance greatly improved. His academics greatly improved. Everything about them greatly improved. Every time I would go there, the home would look better and better and better. I could tell our relationship was better and better and better. He had moved on and into high school, and several years later, I had seen him, the grandmother, the two girls, which were much older, walking through the parking lot at the grocery store. And of course, when I saw them, I wheeled around, and the young man saw my truck coming through the parking lot, and he waved his hand and yelled, Mr. Evans. And of course, I hadn't seen them in a while, but I didn't realize at that point how much I had grown to love them. A woman who had greatly disrespected me. A woman who had greatly disrespected me. I too had grown to love her. I pulled over, and They said they were just coming from the grocery store. They were walking home, and of course I said, "Y'all get in the truck, come on." And the young man jumped on the back of the truck. There was at that time then the people rode in the back of the truck. And the two little girls got in the front seat. Grandma got in the front, and we took grandmother to her house. And we began to unload the grocery. We took it inside. And things have changed. Our relationship changed. And I knew it. I'm going to try to get through this. My time is just about up. As we put the groceries away and I walked outside with her, of course, the young man, as he always does, he gave me a hug. The little kids they always had done a relationship, they gave me a hug. And as I headed down the steps, by the time I got to the bottom, was headed to my truck, the grandmother, she said to me, she says, "Mr. Evans, I thank you for the ride home today." I said, "Ma'am, not a problem. It's good to see you." And I could tell the way that she looked at me. I'm trying to get through this right now. She said, "Mr. Evans, you're a good man." She said, "You're a good man." And I said, "Grandma, thank you for saying that. I'm very proud of you and what you're doing for your little family." The little kids were getting to school like they needed to, et cetera, et cetera. Time goes by, many years, and I receive a phone call from that young man. He received his associate degree. He had been in the military, and he had a family of his own. And he said, "Mr. Evans, I've been looking for you. I've been trying to find you." Excuse me, I'm trying to get through this. "I've been looking for you. I've been trying to find you. I wanted to just call and tell you thank you for everything that you've done for me. I constantly talk about you to my family." And he told me about his kids and his wife, etc. And he says, "Again, I just want to thank you for everything that you've done." And of course, I told him, "Thank you as well." He said, "Why are you thanking me?" And I returned the words to him, "I thank you for what you've done for me." And he said, "Well, what did I do for you?" And it was difficult for me to share, but I said, "You'll never understand what you've done for me. But the same way that I blessed you, you have blessed me." And before he hung up, trying to get through this, he said, "You know, my grandmother, she passed away years ago." He said, "I didn't know that. I'm sorry." And he said, "You know what? She always talked about you. That old lady, mean as a snake. She always talked about you." I said, "She did?" She said, "Yes, she did." He says, "I want you to know that she never said it. But my mom, my grandma, she loved you." And he was emotional about it, which made me emotional. "My grandma, she loved you." And I said, "Student one, I loved your grandma too." And he said, "I know you did." I thank you for listening today. And of course, as always, if you like what you heard today, please hit subscribe. Special thanks to Mr. Alex, to Mr. T. McBride. Thank you for allowing me to share this podcast with you. My closing words today is for leadership. Whether it be good or whether it be bad, the seeds that you sow are the seeds that are going to grow. I'm going to say that again. The seeds that you sow are the seeds that are going to grow. The seed that you put in the ground is going to grow. If you sow love, everything that is going to grow from that seed is going to be love. If you sow hate, everything that you touch is going to be hate. If you sow seeds of deceit, everything that you touch as a leader is going to be deceitful. If you sow seeds of mercy, everything that you sow will be merciful. The seeds that you sow are going to grow.